Tonight we're lucky to have Dr. Jim Thomas, the Dean of the Smeal College of Business. He just wants to say a few introductory words. A few.
A few?
Just a few. If he starts telling jokes, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Robin had asked me to do one thing. I go over to New York about once a month, Wall Street for the most part. And my job is to raise money, is to sell the program, to get people engaged with us, to get sponsorship, to let them know that we're producing the best and the brightest and that they should be looking at you for internships and jobs. Inevitably, all the time, they want to tell me what you should know about coming to interview with them. And lately, this has involved a lot of HR managers for various Wall Street firms. Some of it we've asked for, some of it they just bring the HR manager in and say, I want to tell you what your people should know. So I just collected a few things that you should know. And these are things that they are very adamant about. Now, you've probably heard some of these before, I'm sure, but I just thought I'd take just a couple minutes and make sure that you know that who we're talking to on Wall Street, which are managing directors, people that do the interviews, HR managers, and so on. This is what they're saying, that they're looking for and what they expect. And some advice on top of it, some general advice as to what to do to prepare. One thing that they say you absolutely should do, and if you haven't done it, you need, before you go, to do a mock interview. We do them, and of course, Career Services down at Bank of America building, they do it. Do a mock interview. However, if you can ask for it, ask somebody to do the interview that knows something about finance. Just a generic interview might help you somewhat, but somebody that's asking you finance-related questions that knows the business out of Career Services will help you even more. Most of these firms, and I'm not exaggerating, are hiring 98 to 99% of their new hires. They're hiring from internships. So 98%, for example, of the folks that were hired at Bear Stearns last year were from internships or from folks who had internships at Bear. So it has always been important, even more so now. And now it's gotten to folks that you're competing with are doing 1, they're doing 2, they're doing 3 internships at the companies. So it's not too early to start to try to get an internship. Doing one between your sophomore, junior, as well as your junior, senior year is perfectly fine. In fact, there's an expectation that you'll have more than one internship. Now, if you're going to Bear, if you want to go to Bear, it doesn't mean that all of them have to be there. But you should have, or think about if it's possible to get to. By the way, I'm on a conference call with Robin tomorrow with the president of NYU. We're trying to arrange a dorm at NYU that can be used for housing in New York if you're going over on an internship, which would be great. And the deal would also include that you could do, if you had time or if you wanted to, you could also take a course in NYU to fill out some of your requirements. So we're working on that as well. Here's the number one thing across all these folks, and you'll hear this, and I don't know how you want to interpret it, but what they'll say over and over again is tell your folks just to be genuine. Don't BS us. Don't try to charm us. We have to deal with the most charming people in the world, and believe me, you're not going to out-charm them or think that you're going to. Don't be personal with us. Oh, you're from Pittsburgh too. Oh, my God. They don't care. Don't talk politics, for crying out loud. But be professional. Now, what does that mean when we start being professional? Any professional will know what their strengths and weaknesses are. Now, and weaknesses aren't, you've heard, I work too hard and I'm too good looking. That's my weakness. I have to shoulder that my whole life, and it's just been miserable. But you need to think about what are you good at. And, of course, they're going to expect, and they're not expecting some Obi-Wan wisdom about your weaknesses. But you should think about it. They're going to ask you, what are you good at and what do you stink at? And, again, one of the things of being genuine is also being honest. They know when you're lying. If you lie and you bullcrap them, they know it. So don't. It's better to walk away with your head up and not get the job than try to lie and think you are going to get it. They appreciate the genuine part of you as well as the honest part of you. And if you have something on your resume that for one moment, well, I was going to join Beta Sigma Kappa or whatever, honor fraternity or sorority or group, that I was going to, I put it on there. They'll check them. Go through your resume and make sure that something's there that's not, oh yeah, I guess I did resign from that. Take a look at it. I'm serious. And by the way, while I'm on this route about resume or anything writing that you're giving it, anything that you've written, cover letters, always have a cover letter, by the way. Proof it again, have 2 other people proof it, and then go have Robin proof it. If they find a typo, you're starting at 50. You're starting in the 50th percentile. It's just not. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh, boys and girls will be boys and girls. It's a little typo there. Oh, they misspelled my name. Don't worry about it. And I'm just telling you, you're out of the running. You've just gone to jail and you haven't collected any sort of $200. We try to help you with this. If you don't know what dressing conservatively and professionally is, you need to get to a website. You need to find out. You need to talk to Robin or her staff. Yeah, I'm even kind of probably a little flashy for, conservative tie, dark suit. Women, skirts and pants are fine, but no flashy jewelry. Guys too, I guess. If you have your ears pierced, your tongue pierced, your lip pierced, or anything pierced or stained, cover it, get rid of it. It's not tolerated. They don't want to see it. And we get told that over and over again. And don't stink yourself up with a lot of aftershave, guys, please. I mean, I don't know how many people I've met. Don't worry about after or perfume. It's clean, it's crisp, it's professional, it's dark, it's not flashy. That's what they want to see. Always go by that. When you go into these interviews, you have to do some homework. Again, don't think you're going to go in and you're going to charm your way through this thing. You should know what the stock price is on that company. You should be looking at a history and be able to cite what's going on with the history with respect to how they're doing financially. You need to know who the CEO is. They're going to ask you. If you really want to be impressive, know who the unit manager is that you are interviewing for, or the area that you're interviewing in, know who those folks are. But don't go in thinking that, again, that you don't have to know anything about this firm. You should also look at and do a history of some kind of what's happening in the news with this company. It's all right to bring it up. It's all right to ask about it. You just laid off 30,000 people. What does that do for my career? Is all right to ask. Their business, their news, their public image is all right to ask about. In fact, there's some expectation that you will. When they say, turn off your phone, they mean it. Just kidding. When they say, do you have any questions? Here's the absolute wrong answer. No, you've answered everything that I've ever wanted to know. And the other wrong answer is, yeah, could you tell me what the salary is? But start asking a little bit about what's the favorite thing that you think your job, I mean, what's the favorite thing in your job, for example? What's the thing that challenges you the most in the position that you have, or the position that I'm interviewing for? What's the daily routine look like for this job? So, but don't get into it. I got to tell you, when I do interviews for faculty, for example, or even for staff, and there's a lot of people that have this same kind of philosophy, I don't even go through all the junk beforehand. How you doing? How's it going? Yeah, I do that. How you doing? Oh, nice. I'm glad you came. So, do you have any questions? I just go right to, you have any questions? And listen to what they say. And they say, well, do you double match on the retirement here? How's that work? Can I have Fridays off every third week? Bye. Don't even, check, bye. But I do listen. They say, what's the vision for this college? How does this position play into that vision? What are the goals, and so on? And that's all I listen for. I'll give them the shtick answers, But I'm looking and listening for what the nature of the questions are. So think carefully about those things. Those are not idle throwaways. They're trying to judge, in a sense, what you're about, what the complexity of you is all about, and what you're interested in. So think about the questions you're going to ask. Also, be able to answer the question, why Bear Stearns, or why J.P. Morgan, whatever it is. Why do you want to come here? So you come over, you're interviewing, you're doing it. Why do you want here? What is it about us? I always wanted to be in finance. Come on. You should be able to link back historically in a whole bunch of ways why Bear Stearns is the greatest organization in the world to work for. Why they're so important in your life. And why this job? If you can't answer that, why are they considering? If you don't know why you want the job, then why are they going to give it to you? That's probably plenty of things because you're going to get a whole bunch. But every time that I go, which is monthly, to Wall Street, every time I've talked to people, these are the kinds of things that they over and over again say, make sure your folks know that this is what we do. Now, you're going to get all sorts of variations on those themes. But be genuine. Be professional. Don't get chatty and personal. But most importantly, be prepared. Bring a folder with your resume. It'd be nice to open it up and that you have like a spreadsheet that shows what the history of their finances are, whatever makes it look like you've done your homework, because that's what they want to see. It's not charm. It's dedication. It's passion. And it's understanding why you want to be there, why you want the job, and what is it about you. Now, the last thing I'll say, and this has come up a lot of times too, they'll say, tell us about yourself. Now, you can say, you know, I was born a poor child in south side of Pittsburgh and grew up watching the slag being dumped from the steel mills, and then when I got to first grade, you can do that. They're not going to listen to it or anything. But tell you about yourself is as an opening for you to talk about what you are and what your passions are. And they'll listen. You don't have to go into the history of the world part 1 or part 2 with you. But they want to know about you as a human being. And it's okay to do it, but just don't get real personal. But they want to hear what the answer to that question is. And I guarantee half of you in the room, the first question that they'll ask you is, tell me about you. Tell me about yourself. And you should think hard about what that means. What do you want to convey, and how do you want to convey it? All right, we got 30 seconds for questions, and I'm going to get yanked because I know there's a big agenda. Any questions? All right, what's your strengths and weaknesses? What's your strength? Okay, bye. We'll do next. What's your strength? You, what's your strength? You're very international? Okay. What's your weakness? You're too good looking. Go ahead. You just say it. Just say it. Go ahead. I'm too good looking for this job. Okay. Think hard about these questions, folks. You need to be able to get right in, say it, be prepared. And that's the thing that if I can give you any help at all, you have to be prepared for these things. You have to know the company and you have to know yourself, or you're wasting everybody's time. Okay? All right. Now on the website is my email if you have any questions you want to ask. You can go there, or it's dean@smil.psu.edu, or J. Thomas. That would be me. It's smil.psu.edu. I just did one this afternoon, so I'll probably do one end of next week. You ever see me down in the atrium? Everybody walks by and tries not to make eye contact. But it's funny, as soon as one person comes up, a line forms. But that's why I'm there. I mean, if you want to talk to me about any of this stuff, or about your major, or about an instructor, or a course, or whatever it is, you need to come and see me. Or you need to write me. Or you need to call and make an appointment to see me. Now, I'm not there all the time for that, but I can get there as much as you need me. Thank you for mentioning that. So I expect all of you, next time I'm down there, and I'm sitting there picking my nose because nobody wants to come over and talk to the dean, that you're going to come over and talk to me. All right? That's a fair deal. What's your weakness? I know you were going to...
I'm going to ask you a question. What
Sure.
time are you there?
Oh, well, it varies all over the place, but it'll be on the, on the screens down in the atrium, on the kiosks. It'll always be there about when I'm going to be in. And it's usually a couple days before, so you get some notice.
Yeah.
It's always on the website, too. It should be on the student website. I'm pretty
Everybody
sure
in this room know about the student website, Smeal student site? Okay, if you don't know about it, you better find out about it.
all the info sessions, all advising. I had somebody came to me today with the Dean is in thing and said, I don't know what the specific questions are I'm supposed to get, or specific courses for a two-piece. Where's that list? Smeal student website, advising courses. It's all there. So Robin's right about that. All right, I took up too much time.
All right,
I hope that helps.
Thomas.
Let me know if I can help.
Thank you. You did a great job. You're the best. See ya. Okay, we're going to get started, and we're going to breeze through this pretty quickly. Lots of the stuff Dean Thomas already talked about, so I'm really, really happy about that. And he's absolutely right when he says he's in New York. So am I. So is Paul. We hear exactly the same thing. So that's why we're here tonight, to help you avoid those sorts of pitfalls. Before I get started, I do want to say part of this boot camp later on in the process will be an etiquette seminar or dinner. We haven't quite worked that out yet. But there is an etiquette dinner being held Thursday night, and I think there are about 15 more slots open. So if any of you want to use that opportunity, it's totally free. You can go on the Smeal student site and find out, and it's also on the plasma screens if you want to find out where and when. I will be there, the dean will be there, people from companies will be there, lots of students will be there. So we hope if you want to, that will probably be part of your assignment at some point. So if you want to get that out of the way early, I'd suggest going there. This is my comrade, Paul Poissant. He is the director. He does what I do in the MBA program, and we're going to do this sort of together. We've done a lot of tag team presentations, but he'll cut me off or I'll cut him off. So.
I work with the MBAs, but what the companies are looking for with MBA students is no different than what they're looking for undergraduates. And we make a lot of joint calls on companies because we want companies to come in to Smeal and go after both undergrads and MBAs.
Absolutely. Okay. I want you to seriously think about this. Everybody comes into my office and says, I want to work on Wall Street. I want to make all kinds of money. I want to be, a millionaire before I'm 30 and be able to retire and have a yacht when I'm 50 and all that sort of stuff. Well, I just want you to think about this. I'm going to read a couple of emails, and these are quotes from emails from former students of mine who've sent me these emails talking about their experiences. And we're not going to read the whole presentation, but I am going to read these to you. Former UBS analyst. I'm leaving the bank now. I'm not made to do this. If I put my mind to something as much as I do here, for example, mindless text editing, copying and pasting, getting yelled at for stuff other people can, won't, or don't do, I would be much better off. It's 6:43 a.m. on Sunday, and I have at least 14 more hours of work to do today that will not be fulfilling, useful, appreciated, recognized, or paid for. Sorry this is last minute, but it's just not worth doing anymore. There is no happiness here. I quit. Kind of shocking. A former Lehman banker, as many of you know, my temporary marriage to the institution of banking comes to its abrupt conclusion today, 723 days after the adventure began. To those who tolerated my consistent cancellation of plans, frequently unreturned phone calls, and the all too intimate relationship I had with my BlackBerry, let me first say thank you. For those not on this distribution list that beat me out of banking, it's good to join the other side. Along with the exciting work environment, expensive client dinners, extensive prerequisites, and healthy compensation comes a certain level of sacrifice. All-nighters and weekend work are quite common, and planning more than 2 hours in advance can be troublesome at best. To quote the book Monkey Business, most people have two parts to the day, before lunch and after lunch. A banker's day has 4 sections, before lunch, after dinner, and after midnight. That being said, the benefits have far outweighed the sacrifices I've been forced to make. The knowledge that one of my projects could end up as a front-page article in the Wall Street Journal or as a topic of discussion on CNBC's Squawk Box adds a level of excitement to my work that can be found in few other industries. So Joe's giving you the good and the bad. With my friend here, we just get the bad. And there's another one who, and you can read this on the website later, but he's basically talking about, hey man, reality is so much different than my fantasy. So you'll be able to view all of this on the website. Do you have what it takes? Jim was talking about it. Seriously, I want you to think, this is going to be your experience. It's not all glitz and glam and great dinners and steakhouses and martinis and money. I think you need to be really, really thinking about whether this life is for you. This is what it takes. Leadership. And again, we're going to go through, you're going to be able to view these on the website. I don't want to take the time to go into the detail. Are you results oriented? Do you have leadership skills on your resume? That is incredibly, incredibly important. Problem solving. Think about it now. Are you analytical? Can you think quickly on your feet? Obviously, I mean, I don't want to point you out, John, and Dean Thomas was, you know, he's a joker, so don't take that personally. But that's what he's talking about. If they fire some question at you, are you going to be able to answer that on your feet and quickly? You got to know yourself, and you got to be able to solve problems. Strong attention to detail. I cannot emphasize this enough, and especially on your resume. If you miss a decimal point in this industry, it could cost your company millions of dollars. So attention to detail is incredibly, incredibly important. Communication skills. Dean Thomas talked about it. Do you have advanced oral and written communication skills? Can you articulate your ideas? Can you create a positive first impression? Because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Excellent listening skills are also part of communication skills. It's not just about being able to be eloquent. It's also about listening to the other person and reading their body language. What about your teamwork and relationship management skills? Do you take initiative? Do you have drive? Do you have the kind of energy that it's going to take to be on Wall Street? Are you self-motivated, or do you need somebody standing there all the time giving you pats on the back? Think about it. Who are you? Professional presence. I told some kid today, he said, boy, I went to the career fair yesterday and I just wasn't feeling it from these people. And, you know, I'm looking at them and I'm looking at them and I'm saying, do I say it? Do I say it? Do I say it? And I said, you need a haircut. And you need to get a more grown-up haircut. And you need to go downtown and don't go to Supercuts. Go to some place that's going to cost you $20, $30 and tell them you want something stylish. Not your, you know, you got to get rid of that high school, I'm a baseball player and I wear my hat backwards kind of kid, kind of haircut. You got to get rid of it. You are playing hardball now. Adaptability and flexibility, positive attitude. If you walk in there not thinking that you have the skill set to be successful in this industry, guess what? They won't believe you either. You have to exude confidence. Ability to influence and persuade. Okay, this brings us to the tools that you need to have in your toolbox.
You know, Rob, let me just stop real quick. What she just went through, you're going to get questioned on that. They're going to look for it on the resume, but then the next step is, can you start giving me examples of that? So for each of those areas, you need, just like you need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, you need to know 3, 4, 5 really good examples that you can reel off in an interview of when you showed great communication skills, when you use those to close a deal. You know, maybe it was a deal here with the Collegian or something like that. But those categories, I mean, all the companies are looking for those characteristics in people.
When we say know yourself, that's what we're talking about. Know where your strengths are. Maybe your strength is that you have a lot of drive and a lot of initiative and you have the ability to persuade people, because you do, and that's clear on your resume, John. All right, you've got to have a stellar resume. It has to be perfect. I have never met more people who are more scrutinizing in my entire life. In fact, I will tell you this. As a person who looks through a gazillion resumes a day, I have to tell you, we are looking for reasons not to read the resume. Not necessarily reasons to read the resume. I'm looking. Spelling errors. You know, you put the fact that you like to climb mountains or take hikes, or you're in, some organization that, you're in the knitting club or something, before you put that you were an Eagle Scout, or that you're in the Penn State Investment Association, or the fund manager for the Nittany Lion Fund, or you won the President's Scholarship Award your freshman year, and you're only one of 20 people in a university of, 60,000 students. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Cover letter, same thing. It's your opportunity to sell yourself. It may be the first thing that the employer ever sees about you. You've got to make it strong, and it has to be perfect. I can't tell you, and you've seen this too, how many cover letters I've seen where the person is describing their skills and their attributes, and they're saying, and I'm very attentive to detail, and detail is spelled incorrectly. Okay? So if you're so attentive to detail, how come you didn't proofread your cover letter?
Or dear sir, madam.
Dear sir, madam.
And attentive to details. I mean,
again,
somebody who's going to hustle and find out who the hiring manager is is going to get the job.
Call the receptionist. Okay? She's not the hiring manager. She's just the person who knows who the hiring manager is. The receptionist is your friend. Okay? You don't have anything to be afraid of talking to the receptionist. Interview skills are critical. Your resume and your cover letter may get you the interview, but once you're in the interview, it's sink or swim. Sink or swim. And so many people come to me and they say, I'm getting interviews, my resume is great, I get a lot of good feedback on my resume, but I'm not getting any, but once I get the interview, I'm not getting any offers. Immediately that tells me there's something wrong with your interview skills, and you're waiting until it's too late to diagnose it. Or you say, oh man, I had my interview with J&J and I know I didn't get it, but it was the first interview I had. Wrong. And I always use this, and it's probably a dumb excuse, and it's probably old, or a dumb example, and it's probably old, but Lance Armstrong did not show up at the Tour de France with a bicycle saying, hey, I heard there's a race. Dudes, I like to ride. Can I get in? No? He practiced, he conditioned, and all of you in this room who are athletes know that too. You don't get good at anything unless you practice. It's the same with interview skills. Do multiple mock interviews. And your ability to network. And this is schmoozing. It's all about being at a cocktail party or a reception and walking around and shaking hands. And actually a career fair is a form of networking. The etiquette dinner is a form of networking. But we're also talking about getting the name of a contact on Wall Street for mentoring and making contact with that person and making that contact turn into another contact. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody else. Okay? And hopefully we're going to give you some tips for that. Paul, do you have anything to add?
Well, two things. Keep notes. Who you talk to, when you talk to them, what they asked for. I love it when I see students keeping notes about interviews, that they kind of debrief themselves. They come off of an interview, and while it's still fresh, make some notes, just a quick outline. What were the questions that were really tough? Because you're going to see these questions over and over again. It's not like every company's got a different set of questions. Yeah. Or there'll be slight variations. And trust your instinct. If you felt like didn't really nail that one, work on it and make sure that when it comes up again, you do nail it.
Yeah. Have a strategy. I mean, it's just like anything else. Have a strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about networking later, but I really want to make this clear. You've got to think this out. And we're going to tell you to make good use of your spring breaks and your winter breaks and all that sort of stuff. And, God knows I know you need to go to the beach and have fun and party and all those things. But if you're serious about this Wall Street stuff, Dean Thomas is right. You've got to get started earlier. And one of the most impressive things I have ever seen is one of our students who's only a sophomore. He came to me before, I think it was Thanksgiving break, and he had this whole spreadsheet of people he was going to talk to, when his meetings were, how he was going to get from this place to that place. Had the whole thing mapped out. It was in color. It was very, very impressive, and he did very, very well. He came back and said, I was really, really successful. Oh, I'm just looking at him right now. Should I name you? John Brozick. So if you're looking to try to figure out, how the heck you go about this kind of stuff, talk to John. And you know what? He's the first member of your network. Okay? Talking to other students who've been there and done that is a form of networking as well. Okay. Resumes. Most of you, a lot of you in this room, how many of you have I already seen your resumes? Okay, so your assignment for this week is to turn in a resume, to turn in a cover letter, and to turn in an email for networking purposes. Okay? Someone you don't know, that you're just emailing for the first time for the purposes of seeking information, maybe following up with a phone call. So Your resume needs to be stellar. It's got to be visually pleasing. I got to tell you again, people look at resumes for about 5 to 7 seconds. And somebody like me who, Goldman Sachs will ask me to screen the resumes. I've got a stack of, 150, 200 resumes, and I'm going like this. It's that fast, okay? I'll see something I don't like, or else it's too crowded, or there's too much white space, or it's a Microsoft Office template, and the person in their skills section says they're skilled at Microsoft Word. Really? Well, then how come you're using a template for your resume? Reason not to look at it. Okay? Make sure it's visually pleasing and easy to find the information we're looking for. We're going to tell you what we're looking for in a minute. Traditional format. Do not use some kind of fancy font. Ladies or gents, don't do this, the fancy script stuff. Just traditional. Your target audience is extremely conservative. So you want to make sure that everything you do with your communication tools are also conservative. One page only ever. I can tell you a story. I was at UBS, had this great kid he won the next CEO competition one year, a couple years ago. Didn't have a job yet because he wanted to be on Wall Street, but he had a job in his back pocket with Wachovia. Didn't really want it, wanted Wall Street, didn't quite get it. I can probably tell you why, but we'd worked on his resume. He went down from a 2-page resume to a 1-page resume. I called him. I said, we were in Wall Street. Remember this? With Joel Frisch. And I said, hey, I have the greatest kid. And he goes, get me his resume. So I called him and I said, fax me your resume. Faxed me his resume. It was 2 pages. Joel took a look at it and he said, actually it didn't happen while we were there, but Joel got his resume, looked at it. It was 2 pages, and while we were there, he brought it up and he said, hey, Robin, I said, whatever happened with my friend? And he said, do you remember? He said, there is no way I could take a 2-page resume to my team. There's no way. They'll laugh me out of the room. You kidding me? If you don't know enough about Wall Street to know that your resume better be 1 page, then you don't belong here. And that, my friends, is how critical these people are. So, 1 page only ever. Attention to detail, we've talked about over and over. It's great to use bolding, italics, all the things that make it look fancy and you think it makes things stand out. But guess what? If you use it all the time on everything, then it just makes it crazy to look at. Nothing stands out. Everything goes together. So use these, but with discretion. Just white paper. Don't let anybody tell you that you need to go out and buy expensive resume paper. You don't. Absolutely not. LaserJet, make sure it's on a quality printer. Make sure, I know a lot of you have a lot of things, but you've got to keep at least a 3/4 inch margin, or it just looks like you talk too much, you have too much to say, stuff probably is redundant. You got to be concise.
Well, and Robin, with that, those are obviously a lot of rules for when you're giving a paper resume out at a career fair or something like that. Smart move is to have a PDF version, because you're going to be oftentimes giving it electronically, and that way it's frozen. There's not a chance it's going to run on to a second page, or they've got the wrong version of Microsoft Word, which is happening a lot right now with everyone kind of moving between 03 and 07. So PDF is always a safe choice.
How did that go to one screen? Did I push something on here that made it go to one screen?
I don't know.
Oh, well, we can work with one screen. Okay, in terms of the content, this again is where you sell yourself. So these recruiters are looking for academic strength, also known as your grade point average. Right off the bat, if you do not have your grade point average on there, they will not look at you. You will not be considered. You could be the smartest person on the planet and have every award in history. If your grade point average isn't on there, they think there's a reason. And maybe you have a 3.0 or a 3.2 or a 3.3, but if you don't put it on there, they're going to think it's below that. That is the perception. So get it on there. Leadership, leadership, leadership. That's why it's important for you freshmen and sophomores to get started now. Join an organization. You're not going to be an officer, probably. I've seen this happen sometimes, but you're likely not going to be an officer until later. But you've got to get yourself established in the organization so that people know you and they trust you, and they understand your skill set. They see you as a leader. Leadership with an organization of significant size. Students who work part-time during school, never apologize for this. Don't try to hide it. A lot of times you have a lower grade point average because you're working 30 to 40 hours or 20, 25 hours a week, and you're in PSIA or something else. It's really difficult to juggle your time, and they know that, but they appreciate that. All you have to do is have a little bullet in the education section that says working to offset educational expenses, okay? And you know what that says about you? That says that you have drive, you have initiative, you're tenacious, you set goals, you're self-sufficient. It says a million things about you. You're committed, you're a good time manager. In that one little statement, you don't have to tell anybody that. All you have to do is make a note of it. Academic honors, awards, and scholarships. If you're a freshman or a sophomore, you can put scholarships, any money or any special recognition that you got to come to Penn State. You can still have that on your resume. But once you're a junior, all that high school stuff goes away. So we don't care if you were a National Merit Scholar in high school. We want to know, what have you done lately? Okay? Initiative. Again, show examples where you have done something, taken the initiative, taken a leadership position. I've got students in here who, you know, you might not think it's special, but you run your own landscaping company during the summer. Or maybe you started a website. One of the guys that I talked to started a website recently. I forget what it was, but it's very successful. And now he's going to probably have to hire people. Never dreamt of it. I mean, it was just something he's, you know, started doing on his own. Show examples of that. Team experience, you know, athletes. People love athletes. So if you've got any kind of athlete, I'm not talking intramural sports, unless you're, of course, you know, the captain, or you're the person who organizes everything, or you're the person who gets the shirts or manages the schedules or whatever. But anytime you've been a part of it, it doesn't just have to be an athletic team. It could be a case competition. It could be a project that you worked on in class. Relevance to the field and a competency match. Let me tell you a brief story. A kid named Ben used to come in my office all the time. I loved him. Great kid. But he was a finance major, and he had a 3.6 grade point average, and he was always in my office saying, I want Wall Street, I want Wall Street, I want Wall Street. Well, I knew he was never going to get Wall Street. I knew it. But he kept submitting his resume, and he kept not getting interviews, not getting interviews, not getting interviews. So one day he comes into my office and he says, Robin, I don't understand. I am way smarter than those. I hear this all the time. Everyone in this room is smarter than the person sitting next to you. Everybody's the smartest person at Penn State. I am way smart. I am way smarter than these other jokers, and I'm not getting any interviews. I know I can do the job. I just have to get there. What's wrong? And I looked at his resume, which I had helped him with, and it was a good resume, but I said, Ben, duh, we have a trading room. Do you have any experience in the trading room? Are you part of the trading room? No. Ben, we have an investment association. Were you a member of that? Did you know about that? Well, yeah, I knew about it, but I went, and there were like so many people, and I knew there was no way I was going to get anything out of it, and I didn't like anybody in it, so I just said, forget this. I don't have to do this. I'm going to get a job anyway. Nothing. Nothing on his resume that had anything to do with Wall Street or investments or stocks or anything. So he's like, I can't believe that. I can't believe that this happens. I should be getting these interviews. I called my friend at Goldman Sachs and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to shoot you a resume. I want you to call me back and tell me what you think of it. Why is this kid not getting interviews? And David called me, and you know what he said? There is nothing even remotely close to showing an interest in Wall Street. There's nothing relevant. He's not in Penn State Investment Association, Nittany Lion Fund. There's nothing on here about stocks, portfolio. He doesn't even manage his own portfolio. I mean, there's nothing on here that indicates to me he wants a Wall Street job. Shows absolutely no previous interest, according to his resume. So when I say relevance to the field and a competency match, that's what I'm talking about. Achievements and accomplishments, a progression towards success. Your entire resume should scream This is what I've accomplished in my life. This is the legacy I left behind when I left the Boy Scouts. This is the legacy I left behind when I left the Penn State Investment Association. Here's the mark that I made on this organization. We want to see your accomplishments and achievements and something that differentiates you from the person sitting next to you. And again, I know these things don't come easily to you. Resumes are painful because they're marketing tools for yourself, and a lot of times it's really hard to self-promote. But you need to think about, what is it that makes you different? Do you speak a foreign language? Are you a licensed pilot? Have you already taken the Series 7 exam? Are you a concert pianist? Are you a professional artist? Do you have poetry that's been published? Anything that makes you stand out from the person next to you. Okay, do these things on the resume. These are highlights. Tell the truth, never exaggerate or embellish. Okay? That means if you say you have fluency in Spanish and I start conducting the interview in Spanish and I say to you the following thing, tell me about a time you were in over your head, how did you handle it, what happened? In Spanish. You better be able to answer the question in Spanish. And don't tell me you're conversational. I have conversational Spanish or French or whatever. What does that mean? Does that mean I can ask you where the bathroom is or where can I get a beer? Or does that mean we can have a discussion about global warming? Okay? Be careful about what you write. Never embellish, never exaggerate. I did have one student, I will tell you this, and better to learn it here. You know, this is what I said to him. It's a good thing this happened here versus having your name on the front page of the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. He totally fabricated his resume. He was interviewing with all of the big bulge firms, every single one, every single one. His resume was absolutely stellar. Top-notch student, you know, finance major, international business minor, studied abroad, was the captain of the sailing team, had a 3.8 grade point average. Little snafu, something happened. I'm not going to tell you what, but we looked him up. It's like, this kid isn't in the College of Business. Yeah, he is. No, he isn't. Yeah, he is. He's our kid. We matched up the ID numbers, looked at his resume, looked at his transcript. Guess what his grade point average was? Excuse me? 1.8, Santosh. Good guess? You get the prize. You were close. 1.8 grade point average. He was a non-degree. He wasn't a finance major. He wasn't even in the Smeal College of Business. He wasn't even a student. He was just this guy taking classes. So guess where he is now?
Prison.
Not prison, but I did refer him to Judicial Affairs, and he did get expelled. I mean, the Smeal Honor Code, you better take it seriously, because guess what? It translates into real life, too. And this time, he got expelled. He had no business being here in the first place, so whatever. But on Wall Street, you do something like that, you're unethical, dishonest, and you land on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Okay? Life lesson.
Well, and recruiters will report it.
Yeah.
Many of them. They'll report it to the dean. They'll report it to us. If they find something that they know for sure you made something up.
Yeah. And on the day I confronted him, he had an interview with J.P. Morgan Chase, and he'd already had 3 other job offers from Wall Street firms. Of course, we had to call them and tell them he was in prison. No, he wasn't in prison. Put your power toward the top and not toward the bottom. I'm going to put examples of really good resumes up on the Angel site, and I'm going to put some examples of bad resumes up on the Angel site. What you need to understand is that people read from top to bottom and left to right. So when they're scanning, they're not starting at the bottom. So don't put, was that you, John, that we did yours? You had gazillion awards down at the bottom. Yeah, John, you know, his grade point average and everything, where he worked, and you know, it's not like he had jobs at Goldman Sachs over the summer. You know, they were the kind of jobs everybody gets. Pretty ordinary resume till you start getting to the bottom and you see all of his leadership stuff and all these scholarships and awards and achievements that he had. Like, dude, put this up to the top, because guess what? The rest of the whole resume is boring and I'm never going to get to the bottom because I'm scanning. Okay? So you want to put the most important, the most relevant, the most compelling things toward the top. Make liberal use of keywords from the job description and use industry buzzwords, okay? Pretend that you're sending this to a computer and they're going to scan for industry, language. So portfolio, stocks, DCF, whatever they are, ratios. I don't even know. I should know all the language by now. But you know what I'm talking about. The way you guys talk in PSIA, that's the way you need to talk on your resume too. Use those words. You can get them right from the job description. Highlight your assets, we talked about. List your accomplishments and your achievements versus your duties and responsibilities. Please never start one of your bullets with responsible for, because it's not compelling. I don't want to know what your duties are. And that's what that implies is going to follow. Have multiple people review your resume for typos and grammatical errors. I can't tell you how many times kids come to me and they go, I go, oh my God, you have activity spelled incorrectly. Oh my God, you spelled marketing incorrectly. And they're like, what? That is impossible. I had my dad, I had, the dean, I had Paul Poissant, I had 15 people review my resume and nobody saw that. Well, it only takes one person to see it. So make sure you review. These are things that are going to get you killed on a resume. If you have political or religious affiliations on there, Jim wasn't kidding when he said don't talk politics, don't talk religion. If your religion or your politics are an important part of your life and it displays your leadership and your drive and your initiative and all the things that recruiters are looking for, then put it on there. But if it's a hobby or an activity that you can't really display those traits or characteristics, then leave it off. You do not need to tell the recruiter that you will provide references on request. Okay, so don't waste a line. You will find out that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is going to become very valuable real estate. And you're going to need every single space you have to promote yourself. So don't waste a line telling employers what they already know. Personal information, they don't need to know your learning disability. Okay? They don't need to know that you're dyslexic or you have ADHD. I don't know how many people in this room have a disability that's invisible, but if you do, it's nobody's business. Okay? They also don't need to know how much you weigh, whether or not you're married, whether or not you have children. None of that. They don't need the address and phone number and zip code of your employer. They don't want any photographs, no photographs. They won't touch it. Personal websites. Want to talk about personal websites?
If it's not professional, you don't want anyone to have access to it. I've seen so many people burned by, and people will Google you. That's the other thing, is even if you don't offer it up, I know we do it. When applicants apply to our MBA program and there's just something that doesn't look quite right and where they're right on the border, we Google them. I'm amazed at what I find.
Yeah. Criminal records?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Lots
fine.
of stuff. I'll tell you what, if your grandma can't look at your MySpace or your, what's the other thing? MySpace? Facebook. If they can't, what is it? Facebook. Facebook. MySpace or Facebook. I am totally hip, by the way. Yeah. I have a MySpace page or a MyFace page or whatever it is. Just kidding. I have one. Go ahead, Google me. Anyway, if your grandma can't look at it and say, I am so proud of Stephen, he is such a good boy, then guess what? Fix it. Okay? Because employers are looking at these. Yes?
Do the political and religious affiliation rules apply to your personal website?
I would say no, because it's your personal website.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it's not, I'm a neo-Nazi or, something really controversial. You wouldn't want to have anything like that.
It's amazing. And really look at the images. Like, there was an MBA student a few years ago when personal websites really first became big. And he was a Texas A&M grad. And at that time, anybody who knows anything about Texas A&M, they used to have a big bonfire before their football game. And people who looked at that image, you go to his website, there'd be this big bonfire burning. And a lot of people looked at it and said, what's this all about?
Yeah.
And kind of like, is this something racist? Is this something that, I don't know what to make of this image? Because they didn't have the context that he had.
Yeah.
And if you were a Texas Aggie, you knew
knew
exactly what it was. But to most of the rest of the people seeing it, they just weren't sure what to make of it. Is a pyro, guy who likes to set fires? I don't know.
Pyromaniac. Yeah, I am a pyromaniac. Okay, I think you get the point. Coursework, guess what? Every recruiter who recruits here knows what your coursework is. That's why they come. It's not just like, hey, let's throw some names of schools in a hat and pick out some, and that's where we're going to go recruit. It's a science. And these people study. They know. They not only know what courses you take, they know when you're supposed to take them. They know what a two-piece sequence is. They know what you should be taking in your two-piece sequence. So don't waste room on your resume telling the companies things they already know. High school, we talked about this. Personal pronouns. Your resume is not a story. I don't want to see I, my, yours, theirs, our. None of those personal pronouns belong on your resume. There are ways that you can not say those. These are things that will absolutely kill your resume. You get the point? Spelling, grammar, typos, using only your school or your home address. Sometimes these resumes sit on a desk for a while. These people don't know when spring break is, so if you're away and you don't have your home number on there, your permanent number, and they can't call your parents and say, where can I get in touch with John? It's a mistake. Absence of grade point average, we talked about that. Congestion or too much white space, too much creativity. Paul and I were on a search committee for, I don't even remember what it was a long time ago. Maybe it was an alumni director or something.
Which incident?
What?
I was going to ask, which incident?
Yeah. Oh, the guy that drew a self-portrait on the top of the resume. Remember that? This guy. Yeah. Seriously, I mean, this is a real job. And this guy submits this resume, and he had drawn a self-portrait on the top, right under his name, John somebody. And he had a little self-image that he drew. And we all burst into laughter, and then we threw his resume away. Yeah. Like,
if you think you're being clever, you're probably not.
Yeah, you're probably not. Quantification errors. Paul just told me a story about this today in the.
Well, this was really more an error of, and it's really about knowing your resume. A woman came into me and said, "I think I just blew an interview." I said, "What did you do?" She said, "The interviewer asked me about a number I had on my very first bullet on my resume, and I got it wrong." And I said, "You probably did blow it."
Yeah.
Because if I'm the recruiter, hey, you own that resume. If you don't have everything memorized on there, and I know recruiters who sometimes quiz people to test for this, I may just walk away assuming you made this up. Mm-hmm. I remember that happening to me in interviews. How much money did you save on this job? Mm-hmm. Some interviewers will even kind of cleverly take your resume away from you in the interview so you can't refer to it.
Yeah.
And then do that to you.
Yeah.
Figuring, hey, if you really did it, you'll remember that number. You'll remember what the percentage increase was or how many thousands of dollars you saved or earned.
Yeah. I had a woman once tell me she was the top salesperson at a designer shoe store for 18 straight weeks during the summer. And I said, well, that's kind of funny because summer's only 8 weeks. So typo or, you just don't know. It was a typo. But she, again, didn't look at her resume again. Incorrect objective statement. You have no idea how many times. Submit your resume for Goldman. Send it to Robin Stevens. Guess what? I'm seeking a summer-only internship in the sales and trading department at Citigroup. Guess what? Not going to get it. Not going to get the interview. Going to get thrown away. So be careful about that. Exaggeration, we talked about the guy who was expelled. More than one page, I told you the Josh story, and using a software package template. They are very easily recognizable, number one. Number two, it's the worst possible resume format in the entire world in terms of what recruiters are looking for.
Rob, let me ask you a question, because I think it comes up a lot. How many people didn't have the greatest GPA coming out of their freshman year, and it improved a little bit after that? I mean, I kind of goofed around. I hated calculus. Once I got sophomore year, junior year, things straightened out. Hey, give them a junior, senior GPA.
Yeah, you can do that.
At least you're giving them something much better than giving no GPA at all, because they're going to assume it's bad if they don't see it.
When you put your major GPA on there, and where can you get it? Do you have to calculate it by hand, or will E-line split it out for you once you're junior?
I'm not that familiar with E-line, but what I do know is that you can do it in two ways. You can use only your major courses, so the preface is always, or the prefix is always finance. You can use only those courses, and if it's better than using those courses and the courses that are required for your major, then use it. But if you calculate it using those finance courses, but also the courses that were required for your major, and that's better, then use that. The point is, you just have to be able to articulate to the recruiter which it is, okay? And they're not going to be so judgmental about that. As long, again, Jim said, tell the truth, as long as you're honest about it. Oh, I had a recruiter call me the other day, Jeff Mitzak from Goldman. I don't know how many of you talked to him. He told me this story. He called me right away. Hey, Rob, and I got to tell you this, and I definitely want to tell you the story. He said, you know what? On Wall Street, we really look for PSIA and Nittany Lion Fund. I mean, that's become a brand. If we see that on somebody's resume, we will definitely read the resume. So when these kids get to the interview and I say, so you're an analyst in the telecom sector and PSIA, what are your top 4 stocks? And you don't know, you know? Or you just say, oh, I'm not really an analyst, I just go to the meetings. Or you're a fund manager and you don't know what your benchmark is. Okay? These are bad. These are bad things to do. These are things that tarnish the brand. Okay? So it's not enough just to have PSIA or the Nittany Lion Fund on your resume. You have to be able to talk about it eloquently, articulately, yeah, and in depth. Yes?
You're talking about the objective statements?
Yep.
What's like the trend? I've heard people don't really use them anymore.
I say don't use them.
I say don't use them.
If you're dropping the resume for the opportunity, that is the objective.
Yeah, duh. And also, the only time I say use an objective statement is if you're going to a career fair and they're going to be collecting 1,000 resumes that day, and they're going to, usually the people at the career fair are not the hiring managers, so they're going to be the representatives of the company going back saying, these are the marketing, these are the people who want summer, these are the people who want fall, whatever. So in that case, you would want to put an objective. But other than that, you don't really need one. And guess what? It's just another opportunity for you to make a mistake. So I say lessen those opportunities. We are going to breeze through cover letters. Cover letters are so easy, but they're like this mystical thing, and people are paralyzed when they think about writing them. But really, the fundamentals are the very first paragraph. There should be 3 paragraphs. 1 paragraph, who are you? Why are you writing to me? And if you're going to use, I recently spoke with Robin Stevens or Paul Poissant, use it in that first paragraph.
That's the connection.
That's the connection. Why should they hire you? That's what the second paragraph is about. And don't say, I'm attentive to detail, I have a lot of drive and initiative, and I'm a wonderful person, and I'm self-motivated, and I could add value to your company. Show them how. Tell them how. Show them where you've had the experiences in your life, in your previous internships, in your class experiences, in your organizations. Show them where you've had those kinds of, where you've had the opportunity to develop that skill set. How do you plan to follow up is the third. You don't have to, you could say, I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon, and then you will never get called, okay, because they get 1 million of those. Or you could keep the ball in your own court and say, I will follow up this letter in a week to 10 days with a phone call to discuss the opportunity for a personal interview. Or I plan to be in New York City during spring break. I would look forward to the opportunity. I'll call in a couple days to see if we can set something up, okay? That's cover letters, people. On your resume, we talk about focusing on accomplishments and achievements versus duties and responsibilities. Here's a perfect before statement. Monitor automated loan processing system to ensure efficient usage. And here's the same basic concept after. This is, just talking about the same thing, but what your accomplishments, what the impact was, what the results were. Led a task force to select and implement fully automated loan processing system using customized software. Same thing, focused on impact. Reduced turnaround for loan approval from 24 hours to approximately 30 minutes, okay? Same thing, focused on accomplishments and results. There will be other examples of those on the Angel.
For any bullet, ask yourself, so what?
Yeah.
Why was this important? What impact did it have? And boy, if you can quantify the impact, it makes it so much more believable.
Yeah.
Increased number of customers 20%. Cut down response time 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And
increased membership in your organization by 20% or 15%. Some of you are membership recruiters for your fraternity, or what are they, Rush people. Did you increase the number of brothers in your fraternity? How about the amount of your donation to Thon? If you were part of a collective group that worked on getting donations for Thon, how much of an increase was it from the previous year? Those are the kinds of things you want to talk about. Now, interviews, we're going to breeze through this too. Interviews before the interview, Jim talked about this. Know the job, read the Vault guides. We're going to have a link to Vault on the Angel site. If you don't already know about it, it's an incredible resource, vault.com. Penn State has a gold membership, so you don't have to pay anything. You can learn about your industry. You can learn about the jobs. What's the difference between sales and trading, investment banking, private wealth, hedge funds, private equity, venture capital. You can learn all about it on vault.com. You can learn about Goldman, Merrill, UBS, each of the individual firms and what their culture's like. Know yourself, know your skill set and personality we talked about. Understand behavioral interviews. There is a method to answering those questions called the STAR method. We're going to have, there's some information right now on the website about interviews and explaining that. They're going to ask you behavioral, they're going to ask you to explain things, and you want to do it in story form. So know yourself well enough to have about 5 stories that you can tell in an interview, and make sure that one of them is a situation where you didn't succeed. Okay, you didn't meet expectations. Maybe you failed at something. Be prepared to answer technical questions, although not always in the first round, but sometimes. Not always in the second round, but sometimes.
Quick comment. Whenever you tell a story about failure or weakness, it's got to end on a positive note. Here's how I would do it differently.
Yeah.
Here's what I learned from that. Here's what I took away so that I'm going to do it better next time.
Yeah. We've done mock interviews before, and remember Sam? Oh, my God. Did this mock interview. He followed the method, the start, situation, task, action, result. Followed the method perfectly, but the end of the story was something where he did something illegal. You know? It was like, we were so stunned.
I screwed up, so I just walked away from it.
Yeah, I screwed up, and how did you handle that? You know, I just forgot about it. You went back to work. And we were just stunned. We didn't know what to say. I'd never heard anybody do that before, in front of a crowd of people. And he's still a loser, by the way. Correct? We've followed his path of success, or non-success. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice with your classmates. Dress appropriately. Jim talked about that. During the interview, give a firm handshake. Please, you have to understand. Handshakes it's part of the first impression. If you don't give a nice, firm handshake, I mean, you don't have to squeeze the... I remember that guy that hurt me. He actually squeezed me, and I went like that.
We have MBAs practice this.
Yeah.
Literally, because it can undo everything else. If you start off grabbing the person's wrist or kind of real limp, especially with some of the macho types down on Wall Street, it's over.
Yeah, forget it. My dermatologist shakes hands like this. Hi, Robin. How you doing? It's nice to see you again. And I always go, anyway, all right. Maintain spacing as you go through the room. I mean, you don't want to walk ahead of these people, but you don't want to lag too far behind. I mean, these are really crazy things, but it makes a difference. Sit when and where you are offered a seat. Make eye contact, but don't stare. I mean, you definitely need to make eye contact, but don't be awkward about it.
Blink.
Yeah, blink. Relax. You have no idea how many times recruiters come out and they just say, man, I wish these kids would just relax. They're so nervous. So just try to be yourself. You don't have to pretend to be something you're not. Just be you. Sit up straight, arms uncrossed, project confidence. Again, your body language tells a story. And if you go in there slumped over, you know, they're going to go, can we really put this kid in front of a client? No. Okay? You want to sit up straight, exude confidence, act like you know what you're talking about. If you believe that you're the person for the job and that they should hire you, that will come across. But you have to buy that in your head. Be able to articulate a strong argument as to why you want the job. And don't be afraid to say you want the job. One time Goldman Sachs came, they had 14 kids they interviewed. All these kids were super scary smart. And at the end, they only picked one to go back. And I said, what? Why her? I don't understand what made her different. She's not the one I thought you would pick. And they said, yeah, she's the only one who asked for the job at the end. Said, I really want this job. People want to hire people who want to work there. So tell them. Show your understanding of a day in the life. You're going to get that in Vault.com, and you're going to make these networking friendships, and you're going to understand that. You're going to go to New York. You're going to observe these people. You're going to understand it. Tie your skill set to the position. Be able to talk about and defend everything on your resume. after the interview is just as important as before and during the interview. Have questions prepared. Jim was talking about them. And get all the interviewers' names with proper spelling. I had 5 kids, at least in the last hour, in my office saying, do you know the name of the recruiters that came to the career fair for XYZ company? I wasn't there. Did you ask for a business card? Duh. That's what you're supposed to do. So even if they don't have a business card, ask for one. Or ask for the contact information. Ask the interviewer when you will speak to him or her again. You know, come out of the interview and you're like, I have no idea when they're going to get in touch with me. If you ask them, they'll tell you. Follow up with a thank you note. This is critical. There have been many times when Paul and I were on search committees together and it came down to all other things being equal. The person who sent a thank you note got the job.
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail and client facing. I mean, if we're going to put these people in front of clients to build relationships with recruiters, you better be able to write a thank you note. It's critical. Network. Okay, again, quickly we're going to go over networking. There's going to be a little more involved networking session later on. Current students who have interned, network with them. John, who in here has done an internship before? Okay. Look around the room. If you want to know questions about the company, what the job was like, how did you find housing, network. Start your network here. Network with the other people. I will put a list up on Angel of the students that I know who had internships and in what area of what bank so that you can network with them if you choose. I won't put the contact information up there. That's up to you to get. Alumni. We're going to have some alumni here talking to you later in the semester. Faculty. They've got gazillion contacts. Career and Corporate Services, hello, that's me. I work with people all the time. Paul works with people, recruiters. These Wall Street people, they call me. Lots of times when you call them, they call me and they say, should I talk to this guy? And I go, yeah, because they probably got your name from me. So we can help. MBA students, family and friends. You know, folks, every single person you know on this planet is part of your network. And it could be the janitor, it could be the CEO. They all know people, and they all know people who know people. Fraternity, sorority, these are perfect places to start your network. Now, this is going to be one of your assignments. You're going to have to write a resume, a cover letter, and an introductory email in it for asking for an informational interview. Follow up with a phone call when you're networking. Make trips to New York City to get comfortable. I will tell you, again, all other things being equal, you get yourself to New York, you get results. Am I right, John? That is, we have heard recruiter after recruiter after recruiter say, I love it when a kid in a non-target school, which we are not a target school for most of the all the Wall Street firms. They love it when you show the drive and the initiative to go there. Right?
Oh yeah, now there's this bus service, I guess, that's going down there every Thursday
Fridays,
and coming back on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's that much easier, and I can't remember what the cost is, but it's relatively
It's cheap. It's like $40 or something. Yeah, you can do it.
There's no excuse for not getting down there.
No excuse. Networking, when do you do it? Use the holiday and semester break. Start early, freshman and sophomore years. You want to network. This is critical. I have a kid right now who's bugging the crap out of me. He's in Spain. Yeah, I want to interview with Goldman. Those interviews are over. Well, what about they're over, okay? You should have been here the semester before. Number one thing, if you are planning to study abroad, do not study abroad during the spring semester. If you want to go to Wall Street, do not. You know why? Because it's the recruiting season. And they don't care if you're in Spain. They might call you, but they more than likely will not call you. Some of the firms have information sessions and will do a pre-screen the semester before, but most of them will not. So you are putting yourself at a distinct disadvantage by studying abroad during the spring semester if your goal is to do a summer internship on Wall Street. We've heard that too. That's a big complaint. So spring, summer for the following fall, if you're interested in full-time is when you should be networking, and summer, fall for spring internship recruiting if, as I said, you're looking for internships. Okay. Critical. Everything you write, you say, and you do is going to be under intense scrutiny. Intense. Behave at all times as if you are on an interview. I don't care if you're on a phone call. I don't care if you're in an alumni event. I don't care if you're in my office and you're dressed like you are. That's fine. But if you meet a recruiter, you're on. Okay? You're on your best behavior. Always thank the person who helped you and never burn a bridge by doing something stupid. Always be on time or be early. Be prepared with appropriate questions. Never ask for a job. When you're looking, and I shouldn't give this away, but you are not writing to these people saying, can you get me a summer internship at Goldman? That's not how you start. That would be like having a first date with someone and asking them to get married. Hey, I kind of want to go on a date with you so we can get married. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens before that. It's called building the relationship. And that's what you're doing with your network people. Okay? If you're in PSIA or a Nittany Lion fund manager, be prepared to discuss your involvement in depth. Never miss an interview in person or on the phone. Classic example. I gave this kid the boot right out of my program. I wouldn't let him use the contacts anymore. He called one of our recruiters, and the recruiter said, hey, yeah, call me at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I'll talk to you as long as you want to. So the recruiter put his, everything away on his desk, told his staff assistant, I don't want to take any calls. 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, the kid calls. Oh, I'm really sorry, I forgot. I was working with my team on a project. We had a team meeting, and it just slipped my mind. Guess what? Pick up the phone. Robin. These kids have to understand there is no excuse. So you've got to understand, everything you do is under intense scrutiny. Follow up an email with a phone call. Again, one of the biggest complaints I get from the Wall Street recruiters is, these kids email me and they say, I want to follow up with a phone call, and then they never call me. I agree to talk to them, and then they don't call. So do what you say you're going to do. And call from a landline. It's those commercials about dropped lines are funny, but in reality, if you're trying to get yourself a job or make an impression with somebody, not really funny. Okay? So if you're going to make an important phone call, do what Steve does, do what John does. You want to talk to one of these people, come in and use one of the landlines in our office. We'll let you do that.